This is how to start investing when you don't have much money. When I was 18, I invested roughly $1,500, and then in 6 years, when I was 24, I had 158,000, and then now at 25, I've got about 278,000. Now we'll go through how that happened. None of this is a get rich quick scheme or nothing. That's why I don't say I had millions. I don't do any day trading, just indexes. But we'll figure out how to do that now. Okay, at 18, I watched a YouTube video and took the plunge. I made all this stuff with Gamma, so it's not really going to be how I talk. But I started investing at 18. I put about $1,500 into a diverse portfolio after watching a YouTube video, which isn't necessarily super smart. I invested in large companies like Aflac, Coca-Cola, whatever. It was consumer staples, technology, insurance, any sector I could really do. And then I started with $1,500 because I was like, oh, let's just try it around. I had about $10,000 to $12,000 in a bank. Around the same time, I started investing in a retirement account because I knew that was more stable. So I did $2,500 to start, and then I think $100 a month, if I'm not mistaken. 6 years later, we went up to 1750, which I have now sold. Now I just do indexes, and since I've been 18, then I just started doing indexes because I had two of them that just tanked, electric vehicle ones. But I kind of had that as a reminder of not to buy individual funds. But since it grew to 1750, although it's not a substantial amount of money, I'm just like, okay, I think I have the reminder now. Let's just start putting it in the other stuff. 6 years later, I actually started investing in index funds, and this wasn't all for investing. Like, this didn't turn into this. This number is actually, I was just stacking cash. So 100,000 of this was in cash. 58,000 was between retirement, and then I think 10,000 in like the S&P 500. So I wasn't aggressively going in. Then the market kept going up. Everybody was saying there's going to be a correction. I was extremely risk averse, as you could tell by the $100,000 in cash. So then when the market went down to roughly what it was in 2024, early spring of 2025. Oh no, hang on, I might be messing that up. Not this year, last year, 2024. If I'm not mistaken, I don't know. I'm getting the stuff mixed up. The market went down low to what it was the previous year, and then I dumped about $70,000 of that $100,000 in 3 weeks. Then I set up so I would invest roughly $4,000 a month. After that, to liquidate the rest of the $30,000, got me down to I think $20,000, and then that brings us back to today. But turning point, spring of 2025. I think it was 2025. I'm kind of embarrassed. I don't remember. So spring of 2024, I had 158, and now in December of 2025, that grew to 278,000, and I think the overall return has been $30,000, and the rest of it has just been stacking cash in there. So I've got breakdowns of and you can see the progression through the monthlies. I always do one of the monthlies, and then I actually just did one of think about diversification, about where my portfolio is, but all of it's in indexes. $4,000 a month just to keep time in the market, not timing the market. Recently, it's kind of changed a little bit. Now I do $100 a month, and I sold $10,000 of the Nasdaq because that's going to get absolutely pounded if we are in an AI. If we're in an AI bubble, and you already have 35-ish% of the market, and I think 7 to 10 companies all in tech, so you already get a lot of that exposure through the S&P. And if the market comes back up, I'm going to sell the rest of the 5,000 that I have in there. Anyways, this is a more disciplined approach. Obviously, that's a lot of money to throw in there. Basically, everything that I save per month or that I don't spend goes in there. And let's see, disciplined approach, emotional guesswork kept me. All right, I don't know what that is. All right, I don't like picking individual companies unless they're industry leaders. I kind of learned that when I was 18. I just talked about that. But some of the individual companies that I do have right now are some large tech companies. I don't know what the rules are for the SEC. I don't think, excuse me, anybody's really gonna come after me because not these videos don't really get anything. But it's just in tech companies and big leaders, some consumer staples. I don't want to invest in anything that isn't for sure. I don't do any penny stocks. I only have $1,500 in crypto. I'm very risk averse, so that's why in the beginning here that you got 150 or $278,000. Um, that I'm not like, this is how to do it. You're a millionaire. The way that I've actually just invested was very safely in index funds and just working a whole bunch of hours, and then just investing consistently. You're not going to get an impressive rate of return, if you get lucky with other ones, but I don't know. It's all personal. This is kind of a for sure way to do it. So, key lessons I learned: it's important to stress time in the market, not timing the market. Even though I'm kind of doing that right now with selling, and I got 35 in cash. I'll have 40 here if I sell the rest of the 5 at a NASDAQ. And I'm waiting until quarter 1 or quarter 2. There's a couple reasons for that. I think I talk about it in other videos, but just a quick synopsis. Warren Buffett has over $300 billion in cash with Berkshire Hathaway's, the guy from 2008, Michael Burry. He's predicting a stock market crash. Now, that one I don't have as much weight to because he said there's going to be crashes or corrections before, and it hasn't happened, but Warren Buffett has a pretty good track record. I think one of it he pulled cash out for like 2 years, roughly, but then it did go down. So I'm not really trying to put in 30,000 and have 10 in cash because I maybe will get 5-6% up, but if there is a crash, it's going to go down at least 20%. So I'm fine with missing out on some upside, even if nothing happens. Love low-cost index funds. Low cost is kind of a I don't know, vocabulary word. It's kind of hard to know what's low cost and what's not. So I like index fund because it gives you a broad diversification without having any guesswork. They're boring, and that's exactly why they work. I mean, Dave Ramsey, Graham Stephan, these guys will all talk about it. Those are the guys I really like listening to. So I like index funds a lot. Low cost. If there's a correction, cool. But otherwise, I'm not looking at 24 index funds and seeing which one's the best price because I really don't know. Dollar cost average works, which is just time in the market. That's why I used to put $4,000 in, and instead of I put that initial $70,000, and then the rest of it I dollar cost average just because I didn't know what was going to go on, and I'm just like, let's put the money in there. I might do that again, but right now I'm just holding it in cash. Beginner-friendly platforms and safe options. Fidelity is what I just went to. I just looked up the largest, most secure ones. That one came up. I'm not really a big fan of Robinhood because of what happened with GameStop and AMC stock, of them stopping people. Obviously, I think they're a safe platform, but I don't know. That's just weird to me. I didn't really want to jump on the AMC and GameStop train, but it's weird if a company stops people from using their platform and giving them all the freedom. So I use Fidelity, and I like Fidelity. CDs are hafe saving when uncertain. I've done these before. When I had all that cash, I think I put $25,000 in a 7-month one, and I think that was getting 4.5% or 5%. Now it's went down to like 3.5 or 3. On the current market here in December in 2025. But something that would be interesting is a CD. There's a bank that offers a flexible CD where you can have a one-time withdrawal early of its maturity date, and there's no fee for it. The stipulation is you can only pull out half of it. So I kind of thought that would be a good idea if I put $25,000 in, and then if the market did go down, I'd get 3.5% instead of like 1 or 1.5 in the bank. And then I'd still have 12.5 to have because I always want at least 10 grand. And then, I don't know, get just a little bit more interest, but obviously that's not very much interest. It's kind of penny pinching. So what's the best first investment for a 20-year-old? Honestly, at 20, I had no idea what to do. I heard about the S&P a lot, which sounded very solid. I also heard chatter about crypto, but I didn't buy any. Hindsight's 2020. It went up a lot, but I don't know. I don't like uncertainty and risk, so I didn't do that. This is why I just stacked a bunch of money. Looking back, I believe the best investment at 20 was cash. Now, a lot of people might not think that, but I really like cash. There's zero risk of losing it aside from inflation, which slowly erodes its value. Now, this might sound very conservative, but it gave me peace of mind while I learned, and I think you think different while you had the peace of mind. No, you don't have any debt. No, you don't have any payments, and that you just have cash money. Um, I would recommend if you're 20 years old, you don't have $10,000, I would save up that as fast as possible and not invest anything. One, I think $10,000 is a good emergency fund, but then also you get to practice the things to have you save money, and hopefully you keep on to that frugality, so then you can invest more after that. Today, I think the best investment is a combination of building an emergency fund in cash, like I just talked about, $10,000. Then start with low-cost index funds tracking the S&P, which I go through the S&P. So I use Vanguard accounts. I thought the NASDAQ was going to be good. It hasn't performed very well the last year. Excuse me. Tech is just very interesting because there's going to be some growing pains with AI. But you get safety and growth potential without needing to pick winners. I don't try to really pick any individual stocks. The $70,000 I put in there was when the market was down and had a correction for a couple weeks. So that was a good entry, but right now I wouldn't really be buying anything. I even just put $100 in the S&P. But if you are at 20 and you don't have a large amount to put in there, I don't know. I would just stick with dollar cost averaging. Okay, common fears and misconceptions beginners face. This is just my opinion. I'm not a financial advisor or anything. You don't have to be risky to win. You hear people making big money off crypto, NFTs, and you feel like you're missing out, which I don't really think you are. In my opinion, or what I've heard, most people lose money chasing the hype. And even if you are one of the really successful ones, I don't think you can really have a repetitive way to get an extreme amount of growth. I'd much rather just practice the solid stuff that always works. You don't need to gamble to build wealth. Maybe in a business, which I means really interesting and stuff, but for the average person who doesn't want to own a business and just make money, I think just the safe, easy, for sure route is the best way to go. Myth, just work harder on side hustles. Now, Alex Hermosi, who I reference all the time, I don't think side hustles are the best. Increasing your income matters, but not every side hustle is worth it. So work smarter, not just harder. Let's see. The thing is, if you have a side hustle, like obviously, I don't really would classify this one as a side hustle, but I've had a lot of different jobs before, and that was just to build cash. I started relaxing more in that and focusing on time once I hit past the $200,000 mark. If you're gonna do something like videos, like I'm doing right now, I'm still working as much as I can and doing other projects, and then I just do this in my spare time. If you have something doing shoes or hair or nails, awesome, but I wouldn't necessarily focus on that, and at least not quit your job and stuff. Get something steady going before you start making the leap to like start your own business. And then if you are gonna do side hustles, just don't go from one to the next. Alex Hermosi talks about it much better than I do, so I'll just leave it at that. If you're gonna do side hustles, fantastic. Get some cash, especially if you're gonna, you're starting out, you're trying to get $10,000 or $100,000, sweet. But eventually, you have to start focusing on time and skill development, which I'm probably late to the game because I'm 25, and now I'm starting to buy back my time and try other things I've always wanted to. I've always had a terrible addiction to working and trying to build a net worth, which I mean is good because the life goal, which I talk about in episode 0, but I don't know. Eventually, I think it's good to focus on buying back your time and skill development. The myth is paying fees is always bad. I don't think it's not. Or I don't think it is. Now, here, let's go. I'll just read this because I think this is kind of important. A 1% fee for a financial manager does erode returns over time. But you do, or hang on, my bad. But do you really know anything about diversification? Will you invest the time to learn? For some people, it's better to work, increase income, and have someone else manage it. I still can't get over the 1% myself, which is why I educate myself constantly, but it's not a bad option for everybody. So, in expanded version of that, I can try to focus on the market and try to focus on diversification, but all the time that you spend trying to learn about this stuff is time that you could have spent working to put into the market. Um, and then also they're going to try to protect you. So one, you have to take the time that you put in there, which is the opportunity cost of making money and investing it and giving it to somebody who helps you out. And then the second time is that's their job and they're supposed to help you diversify and protect your portfolio. So you may not do as good as them. I mean, I don't know how much 1% does over the long term, but for some people, you gotta. I kind of feel like I just kind of rambled through that. For some people, it's better to increase their income and give it to somebody to protect it rather than trying to figure it out yourself and doing, not as good of a job while trying to invest with less money, if that makes sense. So I worked at Northwest Mutual, for example. There's financial advisors there. I was just an intern as a financial representative, which is basically just somebody who calls their friends and family, or supposed to, and then try to get them a talk with a financial advisor. The financial advisor, you might not get higher returns, or even if you just invest in the S&P the whole time, you might get higher returns there because that 1% isn't eroding what you're making. But in the case of a downturn, they'll help you move around money and you'll be diversified so you don't feel as low of lows while also being able to invest more money. So could be a good thing if you don't want to learn about the stock market, or I don't know. Yeah, if you don't want to learn about the stock market. My biggest investment mistakes: picking individual stocks. Do not watch TikTok. Do not watch Instagram. Two of the ones that I did went down 90% or more. The ones that I picked. Now this was electric car companies, so that was when they first started coming out, and I was like, oh, the potential. And I invested in one, and it went up $600. And I invested like $1,000, and then it absolutely tanked. I only wanted to invest in long-term things, so my plan was just to hold it the entire time, and that did not work out. So I can't do this. Maybe you can, but that was something that I am not terribly good at or haven't focused much energy on because I'm more on the long-term. And then don't be afraid of entering the market. There's not really a right time to do it. It's not really a wrong time to do it. Just hesitation it costed me years of potential growth. I mean, I had $100,000 in cash at 24. I could have been dollar cost averaging that since I was 20, and instead of making $30,000 this last year, I could have made maybe $50,000 over 5 years, which I mean would have been good. But hindsight's 2020. Take whatever risk on that you want. Understanding risk, a real world explanation. Cash, no risk. I mean, you're gonna eat inflation, but if you have $100, you can have $100 tomorrow, even though tomorrow it might be worth 99 cents or $99.50. Inflation is slowly eat your purchasing power. Stocks. Buy a stock, it could grow $120 or to $120. It could drop to 80, or it could drop to 0. You're giving more of your money to someone else, or the more you give your money to somebody else, the higher risk and the higher reward. Stocks. Here we go. Arbitrage. Now you're giving your money to a whole bunch of people. You borrow $100 to buy shoes. You pay $105 back in 1 year. That's your contract. You invest your $100 and make $110. Perfect. I netted $5. You could profit 5, or you could lose 15 if the investment tanks. So I'm not a big fan of arbitrage. I don't like debt at all. Shorting stocks, I don't like options or anything. I like this medium risk and index funds, so it's probably around here. I haven't had any debt. I haven't had any loans, unless you count like small credit card stuff. Excuse me. But I don't know. I'm not really into trying to grow fast. I just want to grow for sure and slow. Key takeaway is, at least what I think, things may look good on paper, but there's always a chance to lose money when risk increases. So, I don't know. Practicality, nobody really knows what the market's doing. Yeah, I don't know. It's kind of hard to make a video on this because none of this stuff is for sure. Oh, understand your comfort level before committing to anything. My current investment philosophy. Here's my approach today after learning 6 years of trial and error. Kind of. I didn't really do a whole bunch of trial and error. That's just kind of what I did. 15% of my job goes on one job's retirement plan automatically. They match 5%, so I got 20% there. Max out my civilian Roth account, which is I think the last couple years has been $580 a month. And then cash, I want about 10% in there, which is, well, I guess that's changed now to 5. I want at least $10,000 in cash. While the times are kind of weird, or actually not while the times are kind of weird. Right now, my current portfolio is about 13% in cash, so this is a little bit different. 70% of it is in index funds, roughly, and then large companies about 20%. This is roughly what my split is right now, and some of this is retirement too. So I guess this isn't the best breakdown of it. Man, this is not going very good. I apologize, guys. The whole reason I do this is so I can refine my ideas, and this will be better in years. I can work on communication, my presentation skills. Obviously, we got a long way to go, so I'm just going to try to work through this. Yeah, but, you know. Later the biggest thing I wanted to do was save money in the beginning, then start in retirement accounts because it's most for sure and tax advantage. Give me that big safety net so I can start my own business, take more risk later, and then start investing on my own because that's higher risk. Later, when I have more assets, I might take the next step of having someone manage my money professionally. Right now, though, I don't really want to give up that 1%. I'm very frugal. If you watch any of these, you'll understand. And I just want something safe, which is index funds. Took a low-risk approach until 25. My risk tolerance has increased, not by very much, but because now I'm investing rather than just holding cash. Why? I had $158,000 my net worth and a cushion to absorb market downturns without panicking. So I think you need to have a cushion, at least $10,000, in order to start investing. At least this is my own personal opinion. So then, if something does happen bad, then you're going to be fine. Build your foundation first, then take calculated risk. This has been the biggest thing for me. If you take anything away from that, this is my thoughts. Build a foundation, retirement, cash, and then you can start taking calculated risk of buying individual or indexes, whatever your risk tolerance is. My final thought is investing isn't about getting rich quick. I'm not a millionaire or anything by 25. I worked really hard and I've worked a lot of hours, and I got $278,000, which isn't that bad right now. It's highly dependent on the market. We had a bull market, so thank God for that. But I want to show up consistently, learn from mistakes, and let time do the heavy lifting. Small, stay disciplined, trust the process. This part's really hard. I don't know what's really going on. But that's my plan. I know it's kind of scrambled. That's kind of what I think about investing right now anyways. So maybe that's a good representation. Anyways, thank you for your time, and have a good day. Bye-bye.